High Velocity Wrestling is a professional wrestling promotion based in Western North Carolina. HVW's events provide a family atmosphere featuring old school pro wrestling with a modern day flair, giving a little something for everyone. Hey, what is up? Welcome to the HVW Podcast, the official podcast for High Velocity Wrestling. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and we're here to give you the latest news and rumors surrounding the best pro wrestling promotion in the Carolinas, as well as exclusive interviews that you will only find here. Please remember to visit us online at highvelocitywrestling.com and follow us on all of our social media, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The links are available in this episode's description. This is episode number 6, and we're stoked to bring it to you, folks. We are counting down the days till Overdrive on March 28th, of course, and it's our debut at the American Legion in Hendersonville, North Carolina. This will be a fun night. We cannot wait to see you there. Everything we're doing on social media is leading us to March 28th, of course. It's going to be a blast. But we also cannot wait to speak to our guys here today, to our guests here today, I should say. As you know from the title of this episode, we have a standout of the ladies division here in HVW. She's 1-1 in HVW thus far, and she recently picked up a big win at First Strike on February 29th. It's everyone's favorite mom. It's Sadie Lee Moss. Sadie, thank you so much for joining us today here on the podcast.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Very cool. It's good to hear your voice. Great to have you on board. I said this about Mitch in episode 5 was that we had a heck of a time coordinating our schedules, but we made it happen, and I'm glad you and I were able to make this happen here today. I'm expecting this to be fun. Hopefully you are too, and I know the fans are expecting it as well. They've been asking questions about you, and as you know, the HVW fan bases can be pretty rabid at times, and they're pretty excited every time we roll into town, and I know they're excited to see you as well.
Well, it's always a blast getting to meet all my chaps that are scattered across the state. So, every ring is my home and every child I meet is mine. So I'm always excited when I can get back to them. Very cool.
Very cool. Well said. Okay, so you made your HVW debut at Resurrected on January 25th, of course. That was our big comeback show for High Velocity Wrestling. It was a huge night for our company and a big night for you as well because it was the first time that women performed in an HVW ring. How did you feel going in to that event? Like when you were told, hey, this is the first time for this company, what did that do for you as a pro wrestler? What did that do for you going in?
It just makes the stakes that much higher. As a competitor, you always want to put your best foot forward, but knowing that you're kind of setting the pace for something, you are the first for something, the measuring stick for things to come. It just makes you want to leave it all out on the mat, to pour your heart, soul, blood, sweat, tears, everything that you can into what you can do. And Hayden is an incredible competitor. I will give her that.
Right.
I wasn't too thrilled about the fact that she cost me the win, with the double count out, but, that just goes to show that both of us were willing to do whatever it took, to be the best, to have our hand raised at the end of the match. And unfortunately, neither one of us were able to do that. But I was still very, very pleased because I didn't lose either. I didn't win, but I didn't lose. And I want the people to know that the HVW women's division is about business. It's not a show of physique, but it's actual competition of strength and talent. And so I just hope that that's what we were able to give them and to show them.
I think that point definitely got across. If I were sitting in the crowd, I would not have looked at that match as anything less than just a pro wrestling match. And that's not to boil it down and say that it wasn't good. It's just to say that I wouldn't have said, oh, it's two women. To me, and from where I'm sitting, that's two pro wrestlers trying to knock each other's heads off, which is exactly what you two did. I don't know if any of us expected what was going to happen when you rolled out of that curtain, But my God, you two set the tone early on with the interview. And Hayden came out, and security had to bust you guys up, and I'm at commentary scooting my chair back, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm a little too close to this, because I'm telling you something, man, Hayden, when she's turned up and turned on, that, man, she's scary. I mean, when she came, I like that reaction. When she came at you like that, but I'll tell you this. You stood your ground, and when it was time for your match, my God, you two went out there and just you didn't just put on a show. You flat out took it to each other hardcore.
Yeah, there were quite a few days of recovery that were needed afterwards.
I'm sure.
I mean, even like you said in the interview, I mean, she practically busted my lip with my cookie tray, and her bad manners, and so
Right.
That was something that obviously I had in the back of my mind coming out of that curtain, for when the bell was actually ready to be rung. And I mean, she gave it her all, and I felt it. And I don't want to permanently injure anybody, but I hope that, I left my impression on her as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think that Hayden walked away from that with a newfound respect for you. And I know the fans did as well. We certainly did in HVW, no doubt about it. We knew what we had with both of you ladies coming in, but after that match, after that night, I think we were all impressed. Is not the right word. Just convinced that the right decision had been made to book that match. The two right ladies had been involved in it for the first ever ladies match in HVW. We couldn't have gone a better route. So we talked about you and Hayden a little bit. So coming into HVW, what were your expectations personally coming in? Not just for your match, but from the company itself. Did you know what to expect? Or, I mean, I'm sure you'd heard things about the old HVW, as we like to say, but this was a new day, a new company, that kind of thing. What was your expectations coming in and your overall impression once you got behind the curtain?
I will say that whenever I go somewhere new, I try not to have a high expectation in either way, whether good, bad, just because a lot of that ends up becoming based off of word of mouth.
Right.
And I like to give people their the ability to give me that impression themselves versus what I've heard. Now, as professionals, we have to, listen to what other people say. I didn't hear anything bad about the old HVW days, so that was a bonus. But like I said, I still try to always come in with a clean slate, just because anybody can change. Anything can change in a matter of minutes. One decision can be made that can completely change the course of a promotion.
Right.
And so coming in, I just tried to have an open mind. I had heard good things, so it wasn't like I was even cautious. But from the moment I stepped foot through that door, and then even more so into the back, it was nothing but a great experience. I mean, the company takes care of us. There was nothing but hospitality that was shown to us. And so, I mean, it was just a great experience, something that you don't see often. I mean, obviously there's wrestling promotions a dime a dozen, scattered throughout North Carolina. And so you never really know what to expect or how people are going to get taken care of. But I can say that HVW felt like home from the moment we stepped foot through those doors.
Right. And I'll be honest with you, I said this to Mitch. You're not the first person to say that to us. We had a lot of compliments coming out of Resurrected. And it was funny for me because I just happened to be in the parking lot when you rolled in with your family. And, of course, for fans out there who know you and know your husband, of course, is TGA, the great Alexander Moss. So you and TGA rolled up with your kids, and from a distance, I knew it was you guys, so I went to shake your hands. And, for me, I spent 3 months looking at your faces on the promos, on pictures and stuff. So by the time I got to the arena, I had this really, really odd moment because, like, you came in, Hayden came in, Mitch showed up, Chris Fix was there, and I had a really odd moment of feeling like that kid who's always watched wrestling and then went to see it live for the first time. And I'm like, wow, there's the people I've been looking at for 3 months, which was such an odd feeling. But I remember I shook your guys' hands, and you were just so excited to be there, and that was exciting for me. That it wasn't just, "Hey, how are you? I'm so and so," and because I've shook people's hands like that in the past, and I'm like, okay, they're just kind of here. It's all good. I won't treat them any differently. It's fine. But to see the excitement that was on everybody's faces when they rolled up, that was pretty cool. So that was nice to see.
Well, it is still exciting. And I know that there have been times where, maybe you're in the car for a really long time. And so by the time you get out, it's taking every ounce of energy that you have left to stretch your body out and get the blood flowing again, to get that excitement built back up. But, it's the same thing for us when we go to new places and we're seeing these people who we've been in contact with for months, but we haven't actually met face to face. I mean, it's the beautiful thing about social media. You feel like you actually know people.
Yes, absolutely.
So much longer before you ever even had a chance to see them face to face. And then sometimes I'm horrible with names, and it's something I'm working really, really hard on. And now I'm old and I'm taking a lot of hits to the head, but trying to put faces with names. I will be friends with somebody on Facebook for months, meet them in person, and not even realize that that's who I've been in cahoots with the whole time on, through these things. So it is great when you finally actually get to meet the real live person behind the picture and the posts that we get to see. So
it's kind of like not knowing everyone's phone number. You don't need to know it anymore, so you don't know it, because it's just in your contacts, right? So like you said, you're talking to somebody, oh, that's so-and-so, but then you see them live, you're like, holy crap, that is who I've been talking to. So yeah, I get that. I get that totally.
So, oh yeah, or you've got somebody whose promo picture is from a year ago,
yes,
and they've got a completely different look now. So when you actually do meet them in person, they look nothing like what was on. I mean, I've gone through, I don't know, 3 different hairstyles since the promo pic that I've got on my Facebook right now.
Right.
So we always change what we're looking like too. So
right, for sure. I get that too. I've seen that as well. I think the first time I saw Mitch Hurley without something on his head, I was like, I didn't know he shaved his head. I had no idea, because it was news to me, because he always had a beanie on or a hoodie or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I get that. So here we are in 2020, of course. It's a new day. It's a new time, as we said before, not only for HVW, but for women's wrestling. The ladies division has started off, hit the ground running with you and Hayden, obviously. We continued that at First Strike. We'll get into that a little bit later. But talk to me about what's some of the challenges that you face personally as being a female pro wrestler in 2020? What's some of the things that you personally run into now with some of the shows that you're going to?
Oh, goodness.
It's a big subject, right?
It is. Now, I have been very, very blessed, and I don't take that lightly, because my journey's been a little bit different than others. I think because I don't really know what it is, if it's because people know that I am married to TGA or what it is, but there's a lot of issues that I've heard other women speak on that I have not personally, one, either yet experienced, or two, have just not had to be put in that situation. I will say this: when I first started training, and there's always the character development that comes along with training. It was you're a woman, you need to have a sex appeal about you.
Wow.
That's what's going to sell tickets. That's what's going to put butts in seats. They want that, whether it be your gear has to be a little risque, you need to show a little skin, or you need to have some kind of sexiness about you. And for me, that was never something that I wanted. One, I'm not that kind of person in general. I'm a huge goofball. I'm not your sexy, pretty, trophy type girl. But I also didn't want that to be my worth. I didn't want it to be that's what people wanted or expected of me. Right. I wanted to actually be a wrestler. I wanted to, not that women that are beautiful, not that they're not wrestlers, but I didn't want to distract with that, if that makes sense. And I wanted to be respectful to my husband. Modesty is a big thing just for our lifestyle in general. And that's not something that I was comfortable doing. So for me at first, it was kind of like, am I even going to be able to do this? Because that was conflicting to me. It was, do I go the route of being sexy and compromise some of my morals? Or do I try to figure out a way to not do that and just take the tough road and see if it's something people want to see? But there's a lot of women that face that, whether it's, body shaming, you're too big to do this, or, you don't have the flat stomach, or you don't have the figure, to do it, or you don't have that pretty girl look. Maybe you're more of a rugged type, I've heard a lot of other women say that same thing. And even when you look at the WWE, yes, diversity is there to an extent, but there's really not when it comes to body shapes. And I know a lot of that just has to do with the fact that we have to be in shape because we have to be healthy, we have to be strong, we have to be able to do stuff, but you don't really have a lot of different body types.
Right.
When it comes to women's wrestling.
That's a great point. I mean, and that company, and, give them all the credit in the world for, and, for a lot of fans, the Attitude Era was it. That was the best of all time. I grew up during the territory days. I grew up with Jim Crockett Promotions. I knew Dusty versus Flair and the Horsemen and Nikita and Wahoo and the Briscoes and Greg Valentine. That was my wrestling. The Attitude Era was just a part of my journey as a fan. But for a lot of people, it begins and ends with Attitude Era. But I think that WWE's done a great job of overcoming a lot of negative aspects of the Attitude Era, and a lot of that negativity stemmed from, oh, great, here's another mud boat match. Here's another gravy boat match. And I'll tell you this is the truth, and I've said this to people over the years, and they look at me like I'm crazy. Myself and a big group of friends and I would sit there during the Monday Night Wars in a big living room with a fairly small TV, wasn't even that big. We would flip between Raw and Nitro. And the minute the women came out on Raw and the clothes started coming off, we're a bunch of red-blooded American men, as they say. We turned the TV. We turn it back to Nitro because we're like, dude, I just want to see the wrestling. Why are we doing this again? So even back then, there were big segments of us as male fans who were going, okay, she's pretty, she's hot. Okay, what else you got? Let's move on. And it was not fair to them because in our eyes, because we were uneducated at the time, we didn't realize it's not their fault. They're doing this because this is what they're being directed to do. But to us at the time, it's like, can't you wrestle? What are you doing? This is wasting my time. So I think they've come a long way in terms of overcoming that. But like you said, the body type thing has not changed, and they're all still really pretty, and that's fine. But it's like, it's not, is it a true cross-section of the American population of women today? I don't think it is.
Well, and I have to give them your props. You're right, because it has come a long way. You actually have women's matches. Like
yes.
They are getting the cage matches and the no DQ matches and these Iron Man matches. So WWE has come a long way. I guess my thing is when it comes to, and like I said, I do understand to a certain aspect that you just need to be in shape. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's very physical. So at some point, if you're putting in the work so that you can be strong and have the cardio and the ability to move in the ring, your body's naturally going to react to that kind of conditioning. But it's also down to the point of, okay, so every woman that's out there, for the most part, has to have a full face of makeup.
Yes.
Fake eyelashes, all of this. And I get it. But then again, I'm also just like, so not only do the women have to wrestle as well as the men,
and
but we also have to do it with
yes
makeup on. We have to keep ourselves looking that certain way, with the long hair and the extensions and everything. And so it's just the beauty standard for the women is up there. But like I said, it's something that I have really had to struggle with just because once that initial thing was put in me that, oh, it needs to be sexy or you're going to have something else strong to counter that. What better than food? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't need to look a certain way because I'm bringing you food. That'll distract you. You won't care what I look like because you'll be eating a cookie. So, that's kind of
psychology. I like it.
Yes, they say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
Yes.
So, the kids, if you feed them, they will come. It just,
Right.
but like I said, I've heard other women say that they've, that's been a bigger issue for them. Even with promoters, some promoters or bookers, they try to do the sweet talk, or it's I'm going to book you if, I think I have a chance of actually getting with you,
Wow.
Or let me use terms of endearment like sweetheart and darling and stuff to kind of coddle you when I'm trying to book you, for different things. I've heard of these stories. I've seen it to a certain extent. Like I said, for the most part, I've been very, very blessed, so far in the journey. But as far as women's wrestling goes, there are its own set of struggles. Even getting paid. Originally on a podcast that I did, it was, do you see that there's, a difference in the pay scale for men and women, in wrestling? And at first I was like, no, I haven't experienced all that. Now I do. I've heard quite a few bookers or promoters say that the women are asking for way too much money. And I know some of them can be divas, but I think in all, you go to any given indie show and you typically have one female wrestling match.
Yes.
Or women's match, maybe two. Maybe you have a triple threat or a fatal four-way, and then the rest are filled with men's. So there is a higher demand for women wrestlers, but then again, you also have to have your worth. So just because there's higher demand doesn't mean that you're actually giving a product that's worth what you're asking for. But I think sometimes people get caught up in the whole, oh, she's asking too much, and but they don't understand that there's opportunity out there. And so if they are putting in the work and they are training just like the men are, why wouldn't they get what a man is getting?
Absolutely.
Or even a little bit more depending on how far they're traveling. Or if, like I said, if they've made a big name for themselves, you've got women like Savannah Evans,
yes.
Why wouldn't she? She's put in the work. She's a big name in the Carolinas, in the Southeast. She's traveled to places like North Carolina or New York and stuff like that. She's seasoned. So she's, that's the kind of thing that I have seen here in like the past year or so and heard other female wrestlers talk about and whatnot. So,
well, you were talking about body types, and it reminds me of Piper Niven in WWE UK, and she's a full-figured lady, and she's very good. And part of me says, don't ever put her on the main roster. It's a terrible idea, because you see what they did with Nia Jax on the main roster. They immediately went to a storyline where it was all about her size. It was all, and I'm like, why are we doing this again? Like that's the best they can come up with. So I'm thinking, if you're Piper, stay in NXT UK and be happy, because if you get on Raw or SmackDown, they can't help themselves. That company cannot help themselves. They would shoot themselves in the foot every time, and they'll make it about the way they look. When Mickie James she wasn't even heavy at all. They made it about her size, and I'm like, I cannot believe we're still doing crap like this. So it's almost like, oh, well, we have to do this because it's in front of us. We just have to do it. No, you don't. Like, how many storylines back in the day revolved around Dusty Rhodes being fat? None of them, because it didn't matter that Dusty Rhodes was heavy. What mattered was he had amazing cardio, could wrestle an hour without breathing hard, could hang with the best of them, and drew more money than 99% of that company besides Flair. That's what mattered. So it'd be great if we could get that translated to the women's side also.
It would be. It would be. But that's where we are right now. And so I'm not going to deny the progress, because I have seen progress. And so I just think it's important that that we keep empowering women to be the best versions of themselves, but that doesn't always translate into being the skinniest version of themselves.
Right.
If I'm 5'1", if the only way I think that there's beautiful or beauty in a woman is if she's 5'7", 110 pounds, I'm never going to feel like I'm there. You know what I'm there's more than just one version of what's beautiful.
Of course.
So I think that kind of diversity would be nice to see among the women of your larger promotions. But you had Nia Jax, you have even Tamina. Tamina's a full-figured woman as
Absolutely.
well. And there's some others. So I'm not gonna sit here and not give credit where credit is due. I'm optimistic. That's all.
Well, I think you should be. And like you said, it is a new day. It's a new time. And I think there's plenty of reason to hope that it will get better across the board. And honestly, I think we're taking steps forward as a sport. I don't think we're taking steps back. And maybe there's some dark corners of this business that are still antiquated and got an old way of thinking. But, I think for the most part, there's companies like HVW that are coming out and saying, look, we're all inclusive. And we are totally all inclusive. It doesn't matter to us about your background. It doesn't matter to us about your lifestyle. I've never cared about any of that stuff personally. And I refuse to be involved with a company that does. And I said that from day one. So I'm telling you, if my name's attached, this is how we're doing business because it's the right way to do business. I mean, I don't know how else to do it. I mentioned Dusty. I grew up a fan. Did you grow up as a fan of pro wrestling? Was this something you were into as a kid?
So no.
Okay.
I cannot, I honestly, the only wrestler that I really knew, I knew Ric Flair by name.
Right.
And that's just because I grew up, back and forth in Charlotte. And so my dad, drove us past his house a couple of times, like, yeah, that's where Ric Flair lives, but I never really understood what that meant or who he was.
That's cool.
And I knew Hulk Hogan somewhat
Right.
as a wrestler, but more so for his role in The Nanny, the movie that he did. So I did not grow up watching wrestling. And it actually wasn't until I became a wrestler that I found out that my dad and my oldest sister used to watch it when she was little. So there's a 5-year difference between me and my oldest sister.
Oh.
And apparently they used to watch it all the time. But by the time I came around, I'm number 3. I guess they just stopped watching wrestling. I have 3 sisters. That's it. So maybe by then my dad just kind of gave up on the fact that he was going to have a boy sitting and watching wrestling with him.
Right.
So I did not. Honestly, it was the furthest thing from me. I had zero interest in it. I didn't realize how big it was, to be completely honest with you, until I met my husband.
Uh-huh.
And he is the complete opposite. He grew up watching it. His dad grew up watching it.
Yeah, same
His
here.
mom's dad grew up watching it. I mean, it's like a family rite of passage for him. They have, recorded VHSs. So, I mean, it runs deep in their blood. And so when he and I met and he told me that wrestling was important to him, in my head, I was thinking, you've got to be kidding me. You could have picked any other sport, but
Right.
you had to pick wrestling.
Why couldn't it have been racquetball or cricket? Anything but this, right?
Right. Water polo. I mean,
Right.
for goodness sakes. But wrestling, right? But, when you're starting out and you're dating, you try to put your best foot forward. And so I was like, okay, I know how important this is to him. Let me try. I want quality time with him. So if I'm not going to, do my very best, then how can I expect him to? So I would sit and I started watching it with him. And like normal, I was hooked. I got into the drama, between the wrestlers and the storylines and, oh, what's going to happen next week? And, well, wait a minute, honey, why does he not like this guy? And what's going on? And, he starts telling me the backstories and everything. And I was hooked. And so for the first 2 years we were married, that's what it was. It was us watching wrestling. We didn't miss a show unless we absolutely had to. Pay-per-views, we had wrestling anniversaries for when I started watching wrestling. And then he got the bright idea. And I came home from work one day and he said, honey, how would you feel if I said that I found a way for us to have date night twice a week for 4 hours? And I said, well, that sounds absolutely amazing. And he goes, I found us a way to train to become professional wrestlers.
Wow.
I said, you're crazy. I said, you are crazy. And he said, no. So we went back and forth for a couple of weeks and then we started training and the rest is history.
I've never heard a story like this ever. And I'm sure there's others out there like this, but if there are, I don't know who it could be. So it was just a couples thing. It was like, oh, let's just go do this wrestling thing. Like you had no idea what in the world you were getting into, did you?
No, he has always had a dream of becoming a wrestler. And it's funny because I guess it was about 7 years ago, he attended an indie wrestling show. It was a PWX show in Concord. And the guy that was there was trying to convince him to start training then. And just because of timing, it didn't work out. And so he always talks about that, how it's crazy that 7 years ago, I almost did it. And then so it's always been in his head that he's wanted to try. And so when we initially started, I was more so doing it so that he could live out his dream. And it was something for us to do together. I needed to be, more active and, be in better shape. And so it was kind of like, well, it's a win-win. I don't know how beating yourself up translates into physical health, but it does.
Right.
But I didn't think that I would enjoy it as much as I do, if I'm being completely honest. I did not think that anything was going to come of me training. I always knew he was going to be great. I just always had that dream for him. But even just watching him, he doesn't, it's nothing short of just amazing to watch him live that out. But honestly, I was just kind of like, well, I'm here, I'm being supportive. We're doing this. And then it was like, well, shoot, I didn't realize that I could jump, and now I can kind of jump, and I didn't realize that I could do this, and now I can, and this is kind of fun, and I get to serve cookies and love on people and beat people up, and this is kind of cool.
Right. God, that's crazy. That's the best story ever. That's so cool. So talking about you didn't really know what you're getting into, the first time you got in the ring to start training. Like, in other words, the first time, you know what I'm getting at, the first time you hit that mat, for real, what was the first thing that went through your head? Like, have I lost my mind, right?
Yes. And then it was I'm probably going to end up killing myself if I don't learn to tuck my chin.
Yes.
Yes. And we tell everybody that starts out new, if you do not come regularly that first month, then every time you get in the ring, it's like your first time being in the ring.
Yes, it is.
Because it hurts. It really does hurt. And so it was just, I will never forget, LeBron Cozone's our trainer, and he is so patient. He really is like a saint, because between him and my husband, I don't know how they managed to stick it out with me through it, because I did not come from any kind of an athletic background. So it was very uncoordinated. I remember he was just like, you got to get these flips down, the rolls, running. All of it was just like, whew, I don't know. I don't know if she's going to make it.
Right.
But they stayed patient with me. But yeah, anybody who's thinking about starting, I think it's something that you need to be 100% fully committed to giving it your best shot that you can. I think if you try to come in lukewarm, it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough.
Yeah, all or nothing, right? So I remember the first time I hit the mat like that, the first time ever, I didn't tuck the chin. I hit the back of my head, and it was like a movie. Like, instead of me laying there, the camera is me looking up. And two guys, like, their heads just came over me amongst the light, and they both said, "Are you all right?" And I just laid there for a second, and I said, "You're going to have to give me a minute. I can't breathe." So, oh, it was so bad.
Oh, yeah. I think everybody has had that moment. And even if they don't want to admit it, they know. They know they've had that moment.
For sure. So how long ago was this? How long have you been doing this now?
In May will be the start of our third year.
Wow.
So May of 2018, we started our training, and it's just kind of been, you hit the ground running.
Absolutely.
So, anybody that knows professional wrestling knows that there's a lot of sacrifice that comes along with it. There's a lot of long nights and long days, and, very little sleep sometimes. And you're trying to balance between life and priorities and, responsibilities. And then every waking moment that you have, it's donated towards something wrestling related, whether it's researching and studying film, or it's getting in the ring and training, or it's getting to the gym and working out, or it's getting to a show early so you can help set up, and staying late so you can tear down and pay your dues and all of that. I mean, it was, the first year was a blur, a blur.
Well, I never would have guessed that you guys only been doing this for 3 years. I mean, it just seems like but you've had enough time. All right, so have you had enough time to get comfortable enough in your own skin? I mean, I feel like everyone is still learning. I mean, you'll hear guys that have been doing this for 20 years who will say, I did something in a match that I'd never done before. I've always wanted to try. So I think it's always still a learning process to a certain degree. Are you comfortable enough in your own skin right now to enjoy it? Or do you get in your own head too much? Because I know I don't want to say problem, but I know that's an issue for a lot of talent, is that they'll overthink it. They'll go in too hard. They'll go in too soft. Maybe it'll be, I'm trying to do too much at one time. Do you find yourself falling into that?
Yes, but I still enjoy it. So it's kind of weird. It's still very weird. Like I thoroughly enjoy it. And I would say in each match, there's something that, I always feel like I could have done better. Mm-hmm. There's always something that, I know I could have executed better, or I could have placed it better, or, I didn't follow through with to the best of my abilities. But I still enjoy it. So a lot of times after a match, if it's a match that I feel really, really good about, I will wait a couple of days before I watch it back, because I know that what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit and I'm going to nitpick it apart. And then that good feeling is going to go away. Not because I'm intentionally trying to do that, but we should be always wanting to be the best that we can, sure, and getting better. But I mean, there's a lot of times where after a match, I just, I already know there's a lot of stuff that I could have done better. And then I want that criticism while it's fresh. I love it when I come back through that curtain and I can meet somebody that's, that wants to sit with me and say, okay, I watched it, and this, and this is what, you can fix for next time. A lot of people don't like criticism. But I do. And that's another thing too, though, that I've been blessed with people that have been respectful with how they give criticism. I have seen, other people not get criticism in a respectful way. And so when it comes to getting in my own head, yes, sometimes before you get out in that curtain, you're filled with 15 different feelings, you know what I'm saying? And then you're trying to keep it all together. But any vet will tell you, go out and have fun and be safe.
Right.
And
absolutely.
Honestly, if you just remember that, everything else will kind of fall into place a little bit. And even now, I mean, I've only been doing it for 2 years, but even now, matches that I'm having versus matches that I had in that first year, the nerves have subsided a little bit. And now it's more so just, I'm nervous because I want everybody else to be having as much fun as I'm having.
Right. Well, I mean, it's about winning the match, obviously, and you want to go out there and you want to do everything you can to win. I mean, we know how it's supposed to work. I mean, you're trying to win, you're trying to get the W. It means a better payday. It means a victory. It means another step up the ladder with any luck. But at the same time, you're not one of those competitors that goes in there and says, okay, I got to punish this woman. I got to do anything I can to win. You are working to get the pin. And I think there's a difference. Mm-hmm. And I think that, I think you and Hayden Ramsey are polar opposites. You're similar in the regard of you're both passionate about what you do, but I think that's where the similarities kind of end, because the way you go about your business are two entirely different things. Like, you're working for wrestling for the pin. That's what you're doing. You're working to get the pin. You want to win the match. Hayden's ideology is, if I can hurt you on the way to getting the win, that's better. That means I won't have to worry about you next week. And I think fans can see it. Fans can see her attitude and see the kind of person that she is in the ring. And it's like, I think that's why you immediately won the crowd over, because not only is, like I said, when Hayden's fully charged, she can be scary, but at the same time, people look at her and say, okay, I know what she's about. She's wanting to hurt someone. And, talking as a guy in the crowd with his kid, I don't want my kid to see someone that enjoys hurting people. So that is definitely not you. What is the different level of intensity, and how can you hope to match Hayden's intensity, which by the way, you totally did at Resurrected. But I guess a better question is, how did you raise your level of intensity knowing that the object of the game for you is not to go out there to destroy her, but to pin her? How did you manage to raise your game to meet her that night?
Well, like you said now very well, my intentions are not to permanently injure anybody. I'm a competitor. I want to win, but I also want you to be able to walk when we leave. I want you to be able to make it to your next match. I want you to still be able to compete. And as far as intensity goes, I mean, yeah, she's just as intense and she's strong and she's brutal. But just because she's driven by that desire to hurt doesn't mean that I can't still match that as far as my desire to want to win and my desire to protect myself. So she may come at me, and knowing that that's the kind of competitor that she is, I just have to be that much more on guard with protecting myself, because I know that this is somebody that's trying to inflict a pain that's going to last versus, this is somebody that's just trying to win a match. It's like going into a sparring match in, karate versus going into a boxing match. You're still trying to win in a sparring contest, but you're not trying to get the knockout. And so that night I had to make sure that I didn't have any distractions. I had to leave everything that I had out there. And anything that wasn't related to the match had to stay behind the curtain, because I couldn't afford to be distracted. I couldn't afford to get caught up in a moment, get caught up in emotion, and end up letting my guard down and her getting the upper hand on me. Now, at the end of the match, I did. I ended up getting caught up, and I didn't get back in the ring, and I didn't get the win. And so that's something that I've got to live with, but I was still able to walk. I was still able to make it. She didn't destroy me to a point where I was long-term affected by it. So for me, that's still a win, because you're right. I mean, Hayden is all about that punishment, that brutality. So I think it was just studying her beforehand, knowing what she's about, and then being able to have a plan to protect myself. That's all I could do. Everything else is just up to, it's up to whatever happens between bell to bell.
Well, you talked about plans. The old saying goes, everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth, right? Mm-hmm. But you got punched in the mouth more than one time, and you came right back. You may as well have been as tall as her, as stout as her, and maybe taller and stouter, because you did not look like the 5'1", everyone's favorite mom at all. I mean, I was shocked by that. And I mean, I was hoarse at the end of that match on commentary, maybe more so than anything else the rest of that night. And it was, like I said, before you guys went out, but especially before you went out and everything, I'm just thinking, I don't know what to expect. Hayden's very standoffish. She doesn't, I mean, as you know, she's not very friendly. And she didn't really want much to do with me, and I tried to say hello. And I've made the comment that she brushed past me in the locker room, and I thought she had, was going to knock me in the floor at one point. And that'll play out again later in this conversation for something that we'll cover here in a minute. But yeah, she's not very cordial. So I knew she was ready. But then when you came out for the interview and you had a big smile on your face, you had cookies, and I thought, well, not that I'm questioning whether she's ready, but she looks like she's just having a good night. Then Hayden came out, and it's almost like Hayden just sort of let you know, hey, I'm here to fight. And man, when you got challenged, you totally responded. And I feel like there was another side of everyone's favorite mom that maybe we all got a glimpse of that night. That it's like, you could push me to a certain point, but I'm going to start pushing back. So I thought that was very impressive. Well,
I mean, people forget. I mean, I have teenage boys. Like,
Right.
it's not, I've had to go through the toddler phase. I've had to go through the newborns, the sleepless nights, the nonstop, beg for attention. And, so yes, she is intimidating. And yes, she does pack a mean punch. And yes, she's, all that in a bag of chips. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's nothing that can't be segued with something that I don't have to take care of in life being a mom.
Right.
There's times where I'm tired, but I still have to press on. There's times where I'm weak, but I still have to carry what needs to be carried in the house. There's times where the kids think that they're a little big for their britches and they have to be put back in line. And that's exactly the same thing that happened that night. Is she strong? Yeah, but I couldn't let her run all over me. Just like, and so I guess my thing is people think that, moms are, just these little weak, feeble, people in our lives. And the whole point of being the mother of wrestling is to show that no, moms, they have to put up with a lot. Moms can do a lot. Moms can, there's a lot more to it than people think. Yes, we serve the cookies and we have the smiles, but we also have to have the backbone. And so Hayden brought out the backbone.
Well, I'll tell you this. If that cliche is still around, that's a shame, because my mom is the strongest woman I've ever known. And I 100% agree with you. And my son's 11, and I only have one. And you have 3 kids?
Yes.
Oh, man. Jeez. Yeah, you are definitely superhuman at this point, because I've got one, and I'm going to tell you right now, I love my son, but he's plenty. I don't need 3 for sure. So, yeah, wow. He's 11 and going on 18, as you well know how the game goes. So, yeah, I'm dealing with that. But as long as I'm just dealing with the one, it's all good. So the everyone's favorite mom thing just comes naturally for you. Has there ever been a point? I know you've not been doing this very long, but do you think the point will come where you're like, I think I maybe would like to try something a little different? Has that ever crossed your mind? Are you pretty happy with the style that you use? And I don't want to say gimmick. That's such an overused word, but sort of what you like to do in the ring. Do you ever see yourself switching up, and trying to something any different?
Not right now. I thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing right now.
Right.
And I think the thing is because it's just me, just turned up 110.
Right.
I really do care about people. I really do want to see the best for people. I want to feed people. I love to cook. So it's me. And so for me, it goes beyond just what people see in the ring. It's my interactions with people in the locker room, my interactions with people in the crowd, my interactions with people on Facebook. I try very, very hard to be that encouraging, accountability type person in real life. And so wrestling just gives me the opportunity to be able to do that on a bigger scale. So do I think I'd ever want to do something different? I don't know what I even could do.
Right. I understand
that would be
that.
different. And
Yeah.
so this is just a way for me to be able to, I don't know, I guess just help people. That's what I want to do. And so wrestling has given me the ability to try to do that, even through wrestling. I'm kind of at a loss for words right now, what I'm trying to say, but I love everything that wrestling has allowed me to do as being the mother of wrestling.
It's facilitated your desire to help people wherever you can.
Yes.
Yes. So it's sort of helped to open doors where maybe the doors wouldn't be open if you were just a regular working class mom, that kind of thing. But the fact that you can get out there among the people and actually shake hands and that kind of thing and make a difference in people's lives, I mean, that's important. Crucifix said to me in episode 4 that it always meant something to him, even being the kind of guy he is. He's not very approachable either, okay? But he has said before that for someone to come up to him and say, hey, man, I just want to let you know that tonight was very fun. It helped me take my mind off stuff at home, and it meant a lot to me. I mean, that's got to mean something to you when the crowd can just, if they're having issues, personal problems, stuff, they can just kind of leave that all at the front door and just enjoy your match and enjoy your handshake and get a picture and autograph with you. I mean, that's got to make you feel good.
It does, and that's really all I care to do is if I can help even just one person. I'm not saying that I'm some person that helps, everybody, but that's my desire. If I can help someone, then I want to. Because I know that there's so many people out here that they don't have that. They don't have that love. They don't have that support. They don't have that guidance. They feel lost. And so I have been there, myself so many times. And it's just, this world can be very brutal and very lonely. And so my whole purpose is just to try to fill that for somebody, to let somebody know their worth, let somebody know that there are people that care, that they can do it, because there's so many times where all we hear is the can'ts and that you'll never make it. And so I think if people just had that person believe in them, it would completely change their course of life. Or that one person that saw something in them enough to say, I care about you enough to give you this piece of advice or to give you this piece of encouragement right now. And then you can take that with you for the rest of your life. There's things that people have said to us that we carry for years, good, bad, or ugly. And so if I can help in that way, then that's what I want to do.
Absolutely. And, I know you said you weren't a fan as a kid. I was a fan as a kid, and my first memory on the planet was seeing Ric Flair and Wahoo McDaniel, because I remember Ric Flair's robe and Wahoo's headdress. To this day, I've never forgotten it. So a lot of the storylines and matches I saw growing up as a kid that meant the world to me, I still cling to this day. So just think, you are now in a position to give that kid, and not for nothing, but that little girl who's in the crowd, who is, just think about this. There's going to be little girls growing up in this generation who won't know what pro wrestling was like before women were treated like equals. I mean, they won't, you know what I'm saying? And you're going to be one of the people that they're looking at. And people think, oh, it's North Carolina, it's a small town. It doesn't make a difference. I mean, I see fans that wholeheartedly shake my hand and say, man, I had the best time tonight. I won't forget this. I mean, that means a lot. And you're now becoming that person for that little girl who 30 years from now could look back and be doing her own podcast and say, I remember going to a show when I was a little kid and saw a lady named Sadie Lee Moss, and she inspired me to do this. I mean, that's awesome.
It's really incredible to think about, because all the big names, everybody that's on WWE, AEW, NXT, they all have that person. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
Maybe that person never made it big, but it was that person that inspired them to go on and do what they do. Maybe it was a parent that, always watched wrestling with them, or it was that person that wrestler that they saw at an indie show, that shook their hand or gave them their shirt or a free wristband or whatever it is, that can change somebody's whole course. I mean, like you said, it's crazy to think about. I don't ever picture myself to that extent, just because I don't know that I would ever have that big of an influence, but I pray that I do. I pray that I can help somebody.
And not for nothing, you don't know the future either. The business is wide open these days. I mean, there's opportunities all over the place, and a small town, North Carolina, tomorrow could lead to a bigger town, could lead to New York at some point, could lead to anywhere. I mean, so the opportunities are there for sure. I don't think you should ever discount what you're capable of doing. No matter what you're doing in the ring, I mean, because you're talented, your husband's talented, obviously, and I mean, I think the future in 2020 for the pro wrestling sport is brighter than it's ever been, in my estimation, because there's so many more places to wrestle now.
It's crazy, but every Friday and Saturday, you can find somewhere that's putting on a wrestling show within probably 2 hours of where you live.
Yes.
And to me, that's just crazy. Because 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I didn't even know that all these indie promotions existed. And now there's literally one within a dime's throw wherever you are in the United States. That's incredible for wrestling fans. It's incredible for wrestlers. There's opportunity, like you said, there are opportunities everywhere.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, and I could talk to you all night because this has been awesome. We're coming up on the hour mark here, but we can't get out of here without bringing this thing full circle because we've talked about Hayden quite a bit, and I'll be honest with you, you two, in terms of high velocity wrestling, you two are going to be connected because of your match at Resurrected. You two ladies made history, and we know that another bit of history is coming up on April 25th when women main event HVW for the first time. Hayden was going to be a part of that, but at first strike, she was taken out by someone that we didn't see coming. Her name is Kaitlyn Marie, and you were tagging that night with Lindsay Pike against Kaitlyn and Hayden, who we thought were thick as thieves, as the saying goes. The match didn't go their way, and Kaitlyn grabbed a crowbar of all things from underneath the ring, and I've never seen this in any event I've ever been a part of. She grabs a crowbar and takes off backstage. And you could hear an audible gasp from the crowd because I'm on commentary going, oh my God, what is this? We hear a scream, the crowbar's dropped. She comes back out and says, Hayden's not going to be there on April 25th. And sure enough, Hayden Ramsey is having knee surgery and she's going to be sidelined for 10 months. 10 months of her career on the shelf. Now, I know you've had your problems with Hayden, but what was your immediate reaction as all that was happening? Was chaos that night at First Strike?
Chaos doesn't even begin to describe it. I mean, everybody expected them to be a well-oiled machine when it comes to teamwork. And so everything leading up from January 25th to February 29th was that there's no issues. They're working well together. Honestly, I was not worried, but I was doing my very best to be as prepared as I could be. I knew that Hayden had given me a run for my money that first time, and now she was bringing her friend, Kaitlyn, who on my research, I saw that she was a force to be reckoned with as well. But I don't know what happened, where tension arose for them. It seemed like it was just a one-man show, and I don't know what spawned that. But regardless of my history with Hayden, I would never, ever wish that on my worst enemy. Right. What Kaitlyn did was unspeakable. I mean, I would almost say it's unforgivable. I'm devastated. I can't imagine having my own tag team partner turn against me in such a violent way, that she literally takes me out for almost an entire year. I mean, I can't imagine what Hayden's going through right now. I don't even want to know what's going through Kaitlyn's mind. I don't know if she just lost her mind for a moment and went crazy. If this was something that was intentional, that she wanted to inflict that kind of pain on her. I don't know. I mean, maybe she saw what Hayden did on January 25th and she realized that, let's be honest, Hayden could very well be the first women's champion. And maybe Kaitlyn didn't want to have to share that spotlight or share that that climb to the top, as my husband would say. Maybe she wanted that for herself. And so the easiest way for her to do that was to take Hayden out. I don't know. I'm excited I'm anxious to see what happens in April. I'm hesitant. Right. I'm very, very hesitant. We have the cannibal Savannah Evans. I speak very highly of her. I think she's an incredible woman and competitor, not to be taken lightly. Trust me, I've had my experience with her, and to underestimate her is the worst thing that you could possibly do. But I don't know. All I can say is now I'm kind of in the let's sit back and watch and see what happens, because not being able to predict what somebody's going to do is very scary.
Absolutely. And before we started recording today, you had told me that you'd actually tried contacting Hayden to no avail. We have tried as a company to contact Hayden, email, messenger, phone call, carrier pigeon, smoke signals. Man, she's not having it. She's shut down. And not that she was cordial to begin with, like I said before, but she shut down. And I personally even sent a message saying, look, I don't know if you're interested, but we would love to talk to you during the rehab process. We want to keep fans updated. She's not even seen the message, which tells me she's not looking at her social media. So I don't know where we go from here. But, like you said, regardless of how we think about anybody personally or how they may think about us personally, we don't want to see the worst happen. I know the sport means a lot to her, and it's, it's how she makes her living. And now she's put on the sideline for, like you said, almost a year, for 10 months. It's crazy. And Kaitlyn Marie, and so here's the thing. I would like to tell you that I think that there was some kind of deep-seated hatred between her and Hayden, some kind of backstage personal problems that led to this. I don't think there were. I think Kaitlyn got in there, saw what we were offering as a company, saw the ladies division that was ripe for the picking, and she decided to come in and take over. And that's my opinion. I don't know if that's true or not, but I just think that she decided, well, Hayden's in the way. She's a threat, like you said. If she gets the title that's coming eventually this year, I'll have to face her. I don't want to do that, so I'll just take her out now. But I got to tell you, Kaitlyn's made no secret about the fact that she's willing to do this again if anybody gets in her way. Are you concerned at all? Not just for yourself, but for Lindsay, for the other ladies coming in? I mean, what right now, in your opinion, what's the threat level right now from Kaitlyn Marie?
I'm watching my back. That's all I can say. I'm keeping my nose to the grind. I'm doing what I need to do to prepare myself. The days of underestimating people or thinking that you have people figured out have gone out the window. I am just looking at every competitor that you never know what they're capable of. Right. And that's the only way that I can be. I can't live my life in fear, but I can be cautious. And so that's all I'm doing now. If I'm in a situation where I know that there's a chance that she might be present, then I just make sure that I'm on high alert. I keep my kids close by, and, I'm constantly doing the number check and the head check and making sure that everybody's good to go. Not that I think she would ever do anything to my children, but it's just that being on standby. And I just hope that I'm never in a situation where I'm vulnerable enough that she can get the upper hands. And I guess we'll just have to wait and hope for a moment where we can settle this in the ring, because that's how I play fair. I don't like the cheap shots. I don't like the game that she plays. And so I would much rather us settle this between the ropes. And I just hope that HVW gives me that opportunity.
Well, I'll tell you this: a lot of fans refer to her as a bully. They're saying that she throws her force where she has to throw it, and that she bullies her competitors, she bullies her opponents. And she tried that on you, and you made her tap out. And I think that's a huge statement. And honestly, if there's anybody that she should have been concerned about, maybe it should have been you. And not to butter you up or anything, but I mean, like I said going into this show today here, you showed us a lot against Hayden. You showed you will not back down. It doesn't matter how big the tank is rolling through. You're not going to be rolled over. And I think you more than made that clear to Hayden. And I would think that by making her tap out, you made that clear to Kaitlyn as well. So we'll see what happens. But we do know that the HVW Ladies Championship is coming in 2020. I know you're stoked about that. I know we've had conversations about that in the past. What would it mean to you? You were talking about Hayden possibly becoming the first ladies champ in HVW. What would it mean to you to get that championship?
Words can't really describe that feeling. Knowing the history of women's wrestling for HVW, and knowing that this would be a huge history mark for HVW as a company, it would be a huge honor. I mean, no championship should be taken lightly.
Right.
But to be the first, it would be the bee's knees is the best way that I can put it. I don't know any other way to put it other than that. But HVW is not going to make it easy. You see the line of competitors that they have for us. So
yes.
If that opportunity comes, it will be a proud moment because I'll know that I would have had to fight, some of the Southeast finest competitors in order to win it. And so, yes, Kaitlyn is a bully, and yes, I did make her tap out, but yes, that might have just caged the beast inside her. So I'm not taking that lightly. And like I said, if it happens, then I will have put my heart and soul into everything that I have and everything that I've given to get to that point. I will have made sure of it.
Well, I have no doubt about that. And I know the fans completely believe that too. I think you've been a bright spot in HVW since we relaunched. And I've enjoyed your work so far. I enjoy what's ahead for you in the future, for sure. And I do think, as I said in the intro of this show, you're a standout in the locker room, no doubt about it. Male or female, I think you're a force to be reckoned with, no doubt about it. So, well, listen, I got to thank you again for taking the time to do this. It means a lot. And I know the fans have been anxious to hear from you. And I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you've had some fun. And again, just want to say thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry that I kept you up past your bedtime. I know I had to get a second cup of coffee in me to get me to stay up this late, but I do appreciate it. I hope that the fans are pleased. I hope that, it's something that they can be proud of as far as calling HVW their wrestling home. And so here's to 2020 and many years to come.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Sadie, thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a great night.
You too. Thank you. Well, fans, I think that's what we got for you. Big ups again to Sadie Lee Moss for joining us here tonight. That was very awesome. We want to remind you folks again real quick before we sign off, March 28th, 2020, the American Legion Hall Post 77 in Hendersonville, North Carolina. It's the debut of Overdrive. We cannot wait to get there. We've got a stacked card, 6 matches, 17 stars, 2+ hours of action, and tickets are not available online, folks. If you want a ticket to this event, you got to show up at 5 o'clock on Saturday, March 28th at the door. Doors open at 5. The show starts at 6. Don't be late. Fans, that's all we got for you. We will see you around. See you next time. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next time here on the official High Velocity Pro Wrestling Podcast. We'll see you next time. Stay tuned.